My phone buzzed during Sunday lunch, and when I read the message, my blood turned to ice. Don't react. They're recording you. I was sitting at my son's dining table, fork halfway to my mouth, surrounded by candles and the smell of roasted chicken. Heather, my daughter-in-law, was smiling at me from across the table. Nathaniel, my only child, sat beside her, avoiding my eyes like he'd been doing for weeks. The grandchildren were upstairs, their laughter floating down through the ceiling. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. My hand trembled as I set down my fork, but I forced myself to smile. I pretended to cough, reaching for my napkin, and that's when I saw it. Behind the flower vase in the center of the table, tucked between the white roses Heather always bought from the fancy shop downtown, was a tiny black lens. A camera, pointed directly at me. They were recording me, my own family, in their home, at a lunch they'd insisted I attend after weeks of barely speaking to me. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my face calm. If they wanted a performance, I'd give them one. I picked up my water glass with steady hands, took a sip, and smiled at Heather like nothing in the world was wrong. "This chicken is wonderful, dear," I said, my voice light and easy. "You've outdone yourself." Heather's smile widened, but her eyes stayed cold, calculating. "Oh, thank you, Mom. I just wanted everything to be special today. It's been so long since we've all been together like this." Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Too long, I thought.
Because you've been avoiding me.
Because I've heard you whispering about me when you think I can't hear. It has been a while. I agreed, cutting another piece of chicken I had no intention of eating. My stomach was twisted into knots. Nathaniel cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable, shifting in his chair like a boy caught stealing cookies. But he wasn't a boy anymore. He was 43 years old, and whatever he was doing it with his eyes wide open. "So, Mom," Heather said, leaning forward with that sugary tone she'd been using lately, the one that made my skin crawl. "We wanted to talk to you about something important." Here it comes, I thought. Whatever trap they'd set, whatever lie they were building, this was the moment they'd been rehearsing.
"Of course, sweetheart," I said.
"What's on your mind?" Heather glanced at Nathaniel, and he nodded slightly. She folded her hands on the table like a teacher about to deliver bad news to a struggling student. "We've been worried about you," she said. "You've seemed so forgetful lately. Last week, you missed your doctor's appointment, remember? And Nathaniel said you called him 3 times in one day, asking the same question." My jaw tightened, but I kept smiling. I hadn't called him 3 times. I'd called once, and he hadn't even answered. And I hadn't missed any doctor's appointment because I hadn't had one scheduled. They were lying, building a story, and that camera was capturing every word. "Oh, you know how it gets at my age," I said with a light laugh, waving my hand dismissively. "Sometimes I forget little things, but other times I remember more than people expect me to." Heather blinked. Her smile faltered for just a second. Nathaniel shifted again, his fingers drumming against the table. "Mom, we just think maybe it's time to consider other living arrangements. Somewhere with people who can help you. Professionals." There it was. The real reason for this lunch. The camera. The performance. They wanted me out of my house. The house I'd lived in for 40 years. The house George and I had built our life in. The house I'd helped them buy their own home next to, using my savings as collateral when the bank said they didn't qualify. I took another sip of water, buying myself time to think. My mind was racing, but my face stayed pleasant, soft, the way they expected a 72-year-old woman to look when her family suggested putting her away. "That's very thoughtful of you both," I said slowly. "I've actually been thinking about my future arrangements myself. There are some changes I've been considering." Heather's eyes narrowed. That wasn't the answer she wanted. "Changes?" Nathaniel asked, his voice tight. "Oh, Nothing to worry about right now, I said, smiling wider. Just some things I need to handle. Updating paperwork, that sort of thing. The air in the room shifted. Heather's smile turned brittle. Nathaniel's face went pale. They hadn't expected me to say that. I stood up slowly, smoothing down my skirt. Thank you for lunch, I said. It was lovely, but I think I should head home now. Heather stood too quickly.
Mom, wait.
We're not finished talking. Oh, I think we are, dear, I said gently. I picked up my purse, the one with my phone still inside, the message still glowing on the screen. As I reached for the doorknob, Nathaniel called out, Mom, are you sure you're okay to drive? I turned back and looked at him. Really looked at him. I'm more okay than you think, I said quietly. And then I left. Have you ever smiled through betrayal, knowing one wrong move could cost you everything? Drop a comment below because what happens next will show you exactly why you should never underestimate a quiet woman. The drive home took 15 minutes, but it felt like 15 hours. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting Nathaniel's car to appear behind me, following me, making sure I actually went home like the obedient, confused old woman they wanted me to be. But the road stayed empty. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat there for a long moment, staring at my house. The house where George proposed to me on the front porch. The house where we brought Nathaniel home from the hospital, wrapped in a blue blanket, so small and perfect. The house where George took his last breath, holding my hand, telling me everything would be okay. George was wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about one. He used to say, Margaret, families may bend, but they don't break. Except ours did break. It just took me too long to see it. I unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The silence hit me like a wave. No grandchildren running through the hallway. No Nathaniel's boots clomping on the hardwood floors like when he was young. Just silence. The kind that makes you realize how alone you really are. I set my purse on the kitchen counter and pulled out my phone. The message was still there, glowing on the screen like a warning light. Don't react. They're recording you.
Who sent this?
And how did they know what was happening in that dining room? I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where George and I used to have coffee every morning, and I let myself remember. Not the betrayal, not the cameras or the lies,
but the before.
The time when things were good. Nathaniel was 7 when George taught him to ride a bike in the driveway. He fell so many times that day, scraping his knees, crying, saying he'd never learn. But George kept picking him up, dusting him off, telling him, one more try, buddy, just one more. And eventually, Nathaniel rode that bike all by himself, laughing so hard his whole face lit up. Where did that boy go? When did he become someone who could look his own mother in the eye and lie? It started after George died. That's when everything changed. I was drowning in grief, barely able to get out of bed some mornings. Nathaniel and Heather came over every day at first, bringing groceries, helping with bills, making sure I was eating. I thought they were being kind. I thought they cared. But looking back now, I could see it differently. They weren't helping me. They were studying me, learning my routines, figuring out how to take control. Heather started making comments about my memory. Little things at first. Margaret, you already told me that story. Or, did you forget we talked about this yesterday? I brushed it off. I thought maybe grief was making me foggy. Maybe I was repeating myself without realizing it. Then my mail started disappearing. Important letters from the bank. Bills I never saw. Nathaniel said he was handling it for me, that I shouldn't worry about finances during such a difficult time. I trusted him. God help me, I trusted my own son. He had me sign papers. Lots of papers. He said they were just updates, things that needed my signature to keep everything running smoothly. I signed them all because he was my child, and mothers are supposed to trust their children. But those papers weren't updates. They were transfers. They were authorizations. They were my name being slowly erased from everything I owned. 3 months ago, I tried to withdraw money from my savings account, and the bank teller looked at me with confusion. Ma'am, this account requires dual authorization now. You'll need the other account holder to approve any withdrawals over $500. What other account holder?
I asked.
She turned her computer screen toward me. There, next to my name, was Nathaniel's. That was the first crack in my heart. The second came when I overheard them in my kitchen 2 weeks later. I'd been in the garden, pulling weeds, when I came back inside through the side door. They didn't hear me. They were standing by the counter, speaking in low voices.
She's losing it, Heather said.
If we play this right, we can move her into a home and rent out the place. It'll be better for everyone. My chest tightened. I stood frozen behind the door, unable to breathe. Just don't make her suspicious, Nathaniel said. We need more documentation first. They needed proof I was losing my mind so they could take everything. I backed out quietly, went around to the front, and came in through the main door, calling out loudly, "I'm home." They appeared from the kitchen, both smiling like nothing had happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long they'd been planning this. I wiped my eyes and stood up from the kitchen table. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows across the floor. I looked at my phone again at that message from the unknown number. Someone out there knew what was happening. Someone was trying to help me. I typed a message to the unknown number. "Who are you?" The response came immediately. "Someone who knows what they're doing to you. Meet me tomorrow. Starbucks on 5th Street. 10 a.m. Come alone." Would you trust a stranger who warned you about your own family? Comment below and let me know, because what Margaret discovers next will change everything.
I didn't sleep that night.
Every creak of the house made me jump. Every shadow felt like a threat. I kept thinking about that camera in the flower vase, that tiny black lens recording my every move. At 3 in the morning, I got up and searched my house. I went through every room with a flashlight, checking behind picture frames, inside smoke detectors, behind the television. I didn't find anything, but that didn't mean they weren't watching. By the time the sun came up, I was exhausted, but my mind was clear. Focused. I showered, dressed in my best navy blouse and gray slacks, and put on the pearl earrings George gave me for our 30th anniversary. The drive to Starbucks took 20 minutes. I got there early at 9:40 and sat in my car, watching people come and go. At exactly 10 o'clock, I walked inside. The smell of coffee hit me immediately. I scanned the room, looking for anyone who seemed like they were waiting. And then I saw her. She was young, maybe late 20s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun and glasses. She was sitting in the corner, hands wrapped around a coffee cup, watching the door. Our eyes met. She gave a small nod. I walked over and sat down across from her. "Mrs. Ellington," she said quietly. "Thank you for coming." "Who are you?" I asked. She pulled out a business card. "My name is Grace O'Donnell. I work at First National Bank. Your branch." I looked at the card. Grace O'Donnell, Customer Service Representative. "You sent me that text," I said. "I did. How did you know what they were doing?" Grace leaned forward. "Because I process transactions every day, Mrs. Ellington. And about 6 months ago, I started noticing something strange with your accounts." My stomach tightened. What kind of strange? Large transfers. Always just under the amount that would trigger a fraud alert. Moving from your personal accounts into a joint account with your son's name on it. I felt sick. I signed forms. He told me they were just updates. "I know," Grace said gently. "That's why it took me so long to realize. But then last month, your son came in alone and tried to remove your name entirely from the deed to your house. He had paperwork, signatures, everything. But the signature didn't match the one we have on file." My breath caught. "He forged my signature?" "I think so." I couldn't prove it without raising flags. But I knew something was wrong. So I started paying attention. I found your cell phone number in our system and sent you that text when I saw your daughter-in-law posting about a family lunch on social media. You follow her? I looked her up after I got suspicious. She posts everything, including that they were planning to record you. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table. They're trying to have me declared incompetent, I whispered. Yes, Grace said. And if they succeed, they'll have full control of everything. I closed my eyes, trying to breathe. Why are you helping me? I asked. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Because my grandmother went through the same thing. My aunt took everything. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. My grandmother died 6 months later, alone and broke. I swore I'd never let that happen to someone else. Something inside me broke open. In a good way. What do I do? I asked. Grace pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. First, you need to see exactly what they've taken. I printed out every transaction from your accounts for the past 18 months. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Page after page of transfers. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Second, Grace continued, you need a lawyer. Not the one your son recommended. A real one. She slid another card across the table. This is Patricia Chen. She's tough. She wins. Call her today. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet, Grace said. Thank me when you get your life back. Grace stood up. One more thing. Don't tell anyone you talk to me. If they find out someone's helping you, they'll move faster. I understand. And Mrs. Ellington? That performance you gave at lunch? Keep it up. Let them think you're confused. Because the best defense is the one they never see coming. I watched her walk out, this brave young woman who'd risked everything. And for the first time, I felt hope. I drove across town and opened a new account in my name only. Then I went home and called Patricia Chen Legal Group. My name is Margaret Ellington, I said. And I need help stopping my son from stealing everything I own. Hold, please. Ms. Chen will want to take this call herself. What would you do if someone you loved was robbing you blind? Comment below, because Margaret's next move will flip everything upside down. Patricia Chen's office was nothing like I expected. Bright windows, plants everywhere, and a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and the sharpest eyes I'd ever seen. Mrs. Ellington, she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming in. Her handshake was firm, confident. Thank you for seeing me so quickly. Patricia sat down. Grace O'Donnell called me before you did. She gave me the basics. But I want to hear it from you. Everything. So I told her. All of it. George's death. Nathaniel and Heather taking control. The papers I'd signed. Overhearing their plan. The camera at lunch. Patricia listened, taking notes. When I finished, she set down her pen. Mrs. Ellington, what your son is doing is elder financial abuse. It's a felony in this state. The word hit me hard. Felony. Can we stop them? Yes, Patricia said firmly. But we need to move fast. They're building a case to have you declared incompetent. We need to prove 2 things. First, that you are mentally competent. Second, that they've been stealing from you.
How?
You'll undergo a cognitive evaluation. If you pass, we'll have documentation that you're of sound mind. Then we freeze everything. Every account with your name on it. Won't that make them suspicious? Absolutely, Patricia said with a small smile. But by the time they realize, we'll already have everything we need. She made 3 calls right there. To the bank, freezing all my accounts. To the county recorder's office, flagging my property deed. To a forensic accountant. It's done, she said. As of now, your son can't access any of your money. I felt dizzy. You go home. You act normal. If they call, you act confused. You keep playing the role they expect. Will Nathaniel go to jail? Patricia's expression softened. That depends. But, Mrs. Ellington, I need you to be prepared for that possibility. He's my son. I know. And I'm sorry. The cognitive evaluation was the next morning. 3 hours of questions, memory tests, math problems, drawing clocks. At the end, the doctor smiled. Mrs. Ellington, your cognitive function is excellent.
I nearly cried.
That afternoon, I went home and did exactly what Patricia said. I acted normal, watered plants, made dinner, watched television. When my phone rang and Nathaniel's name appeared, I answered with a shaky voice. Hello. Mom, what the hell did you do? His voice was angry. What do you mean, sweetheart? The bank called. All the accounts are frozen. What investigation? I let my voice tremble.
Oh, dear.
I don't know anything about that. Maybe there was a mistake. A mistake? Mom, I can't access any of the money. Well, I'm sure it'll get sorted out. Long silence. Mom, I'm coming over. Oh, that's not necessary. I'm quite tired. Maybe tomorrow? Mom. Good night, Nathaniel. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from power. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed.
Grace.
I heard about the freeze. Well done. Keep your doors locked tonight. I locked every door and window. Then I sat in the dark, waiting. He didn't come. But the next morning, I found something that made my blood run cold. My back gate was open, and there, in the dirt near my garden, was a boot print. A boot print I recognized. Have you ever realized the person you trusted most was the one you should fear? Comment if you think Margaret should confront her son, or keep playing the game. I stood in my garden, staring at that boot print, my heart pounding. Nathaniel had been here, in my backyard, while I was sleeping. I pulled out my phone and took pictures. Then I called Patricia Chen. Someone was in my backyard last night. I think it was my son. Did you see him?
No.
But I found a boot print.
Pause.
I'm sending someone over. Don't touch anything. And Mrs. Ellington? Pack a bag. What? Pack enough for a few days. I want you staying somewhere else. If your son is desperate enough to trespass, he might escalate. 2 hours later, a private investigator named Marcus showed up. He photographed the boot print, checked all my doors and windows. He found something else. Scratches around my back door lock. Fresh ones. Someone tried to pick this lock, Marcus said. Recently. My legs went weak. You need to leave. Today. I packed with shaking hands.
Clothes.
Medications. Documents. George's watch. Marcus gave me his card. If anything happens, call me immediately. I drove to my friend Sarah's house in the next town. She pulled me inside without questions. Stay as long as you need, she said. That night, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. Mom, I know you're not at home. Where are you? We need to talk. Not Grace. Nathaniel. How did he know? Another text. Mom, I'm worried about you. Please call me. Then another. Heather, and I love you. We're just trying to help. And another. The kids miss you. They're asking when Grandma's coming back. That one made me cry. Using my grandchildren as a weapon. I turned off my phone. The next morning, Patricia called. We got the results from the forensic accountant. It's worse than we thought. My stomach dropped. How much worse? They've taken over $300,000 in the past 18 months. $300,000. 40 years of savings.
Gone.
There's something else. Your son tried to take out a reverse mortgage on your house. He forged your signature. Did it go through?
No.
The mortgage company flagged it as suspicious. That's probably why he's panicking. What happens next? We file charges.
Today.
Elder financial abuse.
Forgery.
Attempted fraud. Will he be arrested? Probably. My son. Arrested. Because of me.
No.
Because of him. Okay, I said. Do it. There's one more thing. We need you in court tomorrow for a hearing. The judge wants to see you before issuing the restraining order. Restraining order? Against your son and daughter-in-law. That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Nathaniel. Mom, please. Let's talk about this like adults. Whatever you think I did, you're wrong. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to believe him. But then I looked at the transaction records. Page after page of theft. I typed back one sentence. See you in court. His response. You're making a huge mistake. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I dressed in my best suit. Put on makeup. Pearl earrings. Patricia met me at the courthouse. Ready?
No.
But let's do it anyway. We walked inside, down the hallway, and there, sitting on a bench, was Nathaniel. He looked terrible. Messy hair, wrinkled clothes, red eyes. When he saw me, he stood. Mom.
Don't, I said quietly.
Mom, please. Patricia stepped between us. Stay away from my client. Your client? She's my mother. She's a woman you've been stealing from for over a year. Nathaniel looked at me, pleading. Mom, I never meant to hurt you. By forging my signature? By taking $300,000. His face went pale. How did you? I know everything, Nathaniel. The courtroom doors opened. I walked past my son without looking back. Would you have done the same? Drop your answer below, because what the judge says next will determine everything. Inside the courtroom, the judge was a woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. She looked at me, then at Nathaniel, then at the stack of documents Patricia had filed. This is quite the mess, the judge said. Yes, Your Honor, Patricia agreed. Mrs. Ellington, the judge said, looking directly at me. Do you understand why you're here today? Yes, ma'am. To protect myself and my property from my son. The judge nodded. And Mr. Ellington, do you understand the seriousness of the charges being filed against you? Nathaniel's lawyer, a nervous young man in an ill-fitting suit, stood up. Your Honor, my client maintains his innocence. He was simply trying to help his elderly mother manage her affairs. By forging her signature, the judge asked dryly. By attempting to obtain a reverse mortgage without her knowledge? The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. There may have been miscommunications. Miscommunications that resulted in $300,000 being transferred out of her accounts. The judge flipped through the documents. This isn't a miscommunication, counselor. This is systematic financial exploitation. She looked at me again. Mrs. Ellington, I've reviewed your cognitive evaluation. Your doctor states you're of sound mind and your mental capacity is excellent. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. Have you been coerced into filing these charges?
No, ma'am.
This is my decision. The judge turned to Nathaniel. Mr. Ellington, do you have anything to say for yourself? Nathaniel stood up slowly. His voice was shaking. Your Honor, I love my mother. Everything I did was to protect her. She was grieving. She wasn't thinking clearly. I was just trying to make sure she didn't make bad decisions with her money. Bad decisions, the judge repeated. Like what? Keeping her own money? Living in her own house. She's 72 years old. She needs help. According to her doctor, she needs no such thing. The judge closed the folder. Mr. Ellington, I'm granting the restraining order. You are to stay at least 500 feet away from Mrs. Ellington and her property. You are not to contact her directly or indirectly. You are not to access any of her financial accounts. Do you understand? Nathaniel's face crumbled. Your Honor, please. She's my mother. Then you should have treated her like one. The judge looked at Patricia. Ms. Chun, file the criminal charges with the district attorney. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat there, unable to move. It was over. The judge believed me. I was protected. Patricia squeezed my shoulder. You did it. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, hollow. Because the person I'd just gotten a restraining order against was the same person I'd rocked to sleep as a baby. We walked out of the courtroom. Nathaniel was standing in the hallway, his face in his hands, Heather beside him, her expression furious. When she saw me, she stepped forward. Are you happy now? You've destroyed your own family. I didn't destroy anything, I said quietly. You two did that all by yourselves. We were trying to help you. By stealing from me? By trying to put me in a home? By recording me to make me look incompetent? Heather's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You have no idea what you've done, she hissed. We'll lose everything. The house. The business. Everything. Good, I said. Maybe you'll learn what it feels like. Patricia steered me away before Heather could respond. We walked out of the courthouse into bright sunlight. I took a deep breath of fresh air and felt something shift inside me. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a survivor. What happens now? I asked Patricia. Now you go back to your life. The district attorney will handle the criminal case. But you, Mrs. Ellington, are free.
Free.
The word felt strange.
New.
That evening, I returned to my house for the first time in days. Marcus had changed all the locks and installed a security system. The place felt different now. Safer. I walked through each room, reclaiming my space. This was my home.
Mine.
Not Nathaniel's. Not Heather's.
Mine.
In the kitchen, I made myself tea and sat at the table. My phone buzzed. A text from Grace. I heard about the hearing. I'm so proud of you. I smiled and typed back. Thank you for saving my life. You saved your own life. I just gave you the information. That night, I slept in my own bed for the first time in a week. And for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. But the next morning brought news I wasn't prepared for. Patricia called. Mrs. Ellington, I need to tell you something. Your son was arrested this morning. My heart stopped. Arrested? The district attorney moved faster than I expected. They picked him up at his house an hour ago. He's being charged with elder financial abuse, forgery, and attempted fraud. I sat down heavily. What happens now? He'll be arraigned. Then there'll be a trial. If he's convicted, he's looking at significant prison time. Prison? My son. In prison. Are you okay? Patricia asked gently. I don't know, I said honestly. I thought I wanted this. Justice. But now that it's happening, I just feel sad. That's normal. He's still your son. You're allowed to grieve what he became. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time holding my tea, thinking about the little boy who used to climb into my lap when he had nightmares. That boy was gone. Maybe he'd been gone for years, and I just hadn't wanted to see it. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Ellington? A woman's voice. This is Detective Sarah Morrison. I'm investigating your case. I need to ask you some questions about additional accounts we've discovered. Additional accounts? Yes, ma'am. It appears your son opened several credit cards in your name. We're still tracking the full extent of the fraud.
More. There was more I didn't even know about yet.
How much? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. We're not sure yet. But, Mrs. Ellington, I want you to know something. You're not alone. We're seeing more and more cases like this. Family members taking advantage of elderly relatives. You did the right thing by coming forward. The right thing. It didn't feel right. It felt like my heart was being ripped out. But I knew she was correct. Because if I hadn't fought back, where would I be right now? In some home, confused and alone, while Nathaniel and Heather lived in my house and spent my money. Thank you, Detective, I said. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my neighbor, Helen, and invited her over for tea. She came immediately, surprised and delighted. Margaret, it's been so long. We sat in my living room, drinking tea and talking about everything except what had happened. Gardens.
Books.
The new restaurant downtown. It felt normal.
Human.
Like I was reconnecting with the world I'd been isolated from. When she left, she hugged me. Come by any time. You don't have to be alone. Alone. I'd been alone for so long, I'd forgotten what community felt like. That evening, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let what Nathaniel did define the rest of my life. I was 72 years old. I had money left. I had my health. I had my home. I was going to live. If you've ever had to choose between family loyalty and self-preservation, you know how hard that choice is. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of strange, quiet peace. The restraining order meant Nathaniel couldn't contact me, and he didn't try. Heather deleted all her social media accounts. Their house went up for sale. I watched it happen from a distance, like watching a storm from inside a shelter. Patricia called me regularly with updates. The forensic accountant had traced every stolen dollar. The credit cards in my name were being disputed. Slowly, piece by piece, my life was being reconstructed. But the emotional damage? That was harder to fix. I started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Roberts who specialized in family trauma. She didn't judge me. She just listened. How are you feeling about the trial? She asked during one session. Scared, I admitted. I'll have to testify. I'll have to look at him and tell a courtroom what he did to me. Are you afraid of what he'll think of you? No, I said slowly. I'm afraid of what I'll feel when I see him. What do you think you'll feel? Love, I whispered. I'm afraid I'll still love him, even after everything. Dr. Roberts nodded. Love doesn't just disappear because someone hurts you, especially when that someone is your child. But Margaret, loving him doesn't mean you have to let him destroy you. Those words stayed with me. I started filling my days with things that made me happy. I joined a book club at the library. I volunteered at the community garden. I had coffee with Helen twice a week. I was rebuilding. Not just my finances. My life. One afternoon, I was planting tomatoes in my garden when I heard a car pull up. I looked up and saw Grace getting out. Grace. I stood up, brushing dirt off my hands. She smiled. I hope it's okay that I stopped by. I've been thinking about you. Of course it's okay.
Come in.
I'll make tea. We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd felt so alone weeks ago, and talked. How are you doing? Grace asked. Better, I said. Some days are hard, but I'm okay. I'm glad. You're so much stronger than you know. I don't feel strong. I feel tired. Grace reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Tired is okay. You've been through hell, but you made it out. That's what matters. Grace, I never properly thanked you.
You saved me.
If you hadn't sent that text, you would have figured it out eventually. You're smart.
Aware.
I just sped up the process.
Still.
Thank you. We talked for an hour. About her grandmother. About her job. About how she was thinking of going back to school to become a social worker, so she could help more people like me. When she left, I felt lighter, like I wasn't carrying this burden alone anymore. The trial date was set for 3 months away. Patricia told me Nathaniel's lawyer was trying to negotiate a plea deal. What kind of deal? I asked. Reduced charges in exchange for paying back everything he stole and serving probation instead of prison time. Do I have a say in that?
Yes.
The district attorney will ask for your input. I thought about it for days. Prison seemed so harsh, but probation seemed too light for what he'd done. Finally, I called Patricia back. I want him to pay back every penny, and I want him to get help.
Therapy.
Something. Because what he did isn't normal. I'll let them know. But the district attorney rejected the plea deal. They wanted jail time. They said cases like mine were becoming too common, and they needed to send a message. So the trial moved forward. As it got closer, I started having nightmares. In them, I was back at that Sunday lunch, but this time the camera was everywhere. On the ceiling. In the walls. Recording everything. I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding. Dr. Roberts helped me work through it. Your mind is processing trauma. That's normal. Let it happen. Don't fight it. 1 month before the trial, something unexpected happened. I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I opened it carefully. Mom, I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I need you to know something.
I'm sorry.
I know those words don't fix anything. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I need you to hear it anyway.
I'm sorry.
I love you. I always will, even if you never forgive me. Nathaniel. I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and tried to forget about it. But I couldn't, because despite everything, despite the theft and the lies and the betrayal, he was still my son. And some part of me, buried deep, still loved him too. 2 weeks before the trial, Patricia called with news. Nathaniel wants to testify. He wants to plead guilty. What? He's waiving his right to a trial. He's going to plead guilty to all charges and accept whatever sentence the judge gives him. Why would he do that? His lawyer says he doesn't want to put you through a trial. He doesn't want you to have to testify. I sat down, stunned. Is this some kind of trick? I don't think so. I think he finally understands what he did. What happens now? There'll be a sentencing hearing. You can give a victim impact statement if you want. Tell the judge how his actions affected you. A victim impact statement. Standing in front of my son and telling the court how he destroyed me. Could I do that? I need to think about it, I said. That night, I pulled out his letter and read it again. I'm sorry. I love you. Words. Just words. But they stirred something in me I thought was dead. The next day, I made a decision. I called Patricia. I want to give a statement, but I want to do it my way. What do you mean? I want to tell the truth. All of it. The good and the bad. Who he was and who he became. Okay, Patricia said. We'll make it happen. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. I spent the weekend writing my statement, rewriting it, making sure every word was true. On Monday morning, I dressed in the same navy suit I'd worn to the restraining order hearing. I put on my pearl earrings. I looked at myself in the mirror. You can do this, I said to my reflection. And I believed it. Would you be able to face your own child in court after they betrayed you? Let me know in the comments. The courtroom was packed. I hadn't expected that. But apparently my case had gotten attention. Local news, advocacy groups, people who cared about elder abuse. I sat in the front row with Patricia beside me. Across the aisle, Nathaniel sat with his lawyer. He looked thin,
Pale.
like he hadn't slept in weeks. Our eyes met for just a second. Then he looked away. The judge entered. Same woman from before. She sat down and looked over the documents. Mr. Ellington, you're pleading guilty to all charges. Is that correct? Nathaniel stood. Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're facing up to 10 years in prison? His voice cracked. Yes, Your Honor. And you're doing this of your own free will? No one has coerced you. No one has coerced me. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. The judge nodded. Very well. Before I issue sentencing, I'd like to hear from the victim. Mrs. Ellington, do you wish to make a statement? Patricia squeezed my hand. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked to the podium. I looked at the judge, then at Nathaniel, then at the packed courtroom, and I began. Your Honor, my name is Margaret Ellington. I'm 72 years old, and the man sitting over there is my son. My voice was steady, strong. I gave birth to him 43 years ago. I held him when he cried. I taught him to read. I nursed him through every illness. I was there for every birthday, every graduation, every important moment of his life. I loved him more than I loved myself. That's what mothers do. Nathaniel put his head in his hands. After my husband died, I was lost, drowning in grief. And my son and his wife came to help me. Or so I thought. But they weren't helping. They were positioning themselves, learning my routines, gaining my trust, so they could take everything. Someone in the courtroom gasped. Over the course of 18 months, they stole $300,000 from me. They forged my signature. They tried to take my house. They recorded me at a family lunch to make me look incompetent. They planned to put me in a nursing home and take over my life. I paused, looking at Nathaniel. But here's what they didn't understand. I'm not weak. I'm not confused. I'm a woman who survived 72 years in this world, and I wasn't about to let anyone erase me. Not even my own son. Tears streamed down Nathaniel's face. What he did broke my heart, not because of the money. Money can be replaced. But because he looked me in the eye day after day and lied. He used my love for him as a weapon, and that, Your Honor, is something I don't know if I'll ever recover from. The courtroom was silent, but I want to say something else. Something harder. I took a deep breath. I still love him. I hate what he did. I hate the person he became. But I can't turn off 30+ years of being his mother. And that's the cruelest part of all. Because I have to live with loving someone who destroyed me. I looked at Nathaniel directly now. I hope you get help. Real help.
Therapy.
Something to figure out how you became someone who could do this. Because the boy I raised, he would never have done what you did. And I miss that boy every single day. I turned back to the judge. I don't know what sentence is fair, Your Honor. That's for you to decide. But I know this. What happened to me happens to thousands of elderly people every year. And most of them don't have someone like Grace O'Donnell to warn them. Most of them lose everything and die alone. I was lucky. I fought back. But I shouldn't have had to fight my own son. I stepped back from the podium. The judge looked at me with something like respect in her eyes. Thank you, Mrs. Ellington. You may sit down. I walked back to my seat. Patricia squeezed my hand again. That was perfect, she whispered. The judge looked at Nathaniel. Mr. Ellington, do you have anything to say? Nathaniel stood slowly. His voice was barely audible. I don't have an excuse for what I did. I can say I was stressed about money, that I thought I was helping. But those are just excuses. The truth is, I got greedy. I convinced myself that Mom's money was going to be mine eventually anyway, so why wait? I convinced myself she wouldn't miss it, that she was getting old and wouldn't need it. He wiped his eyes. But I was wrong. About all of it. I stole from the woman who gave me everything. I betrayed her trust. I tried to make her seem incompetent so I could control her. And I hurt her in ways I'll never be able to fix.
He looked at me.
Mom, I know you're never going to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to become someone who deserves to call himself your son. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Mr. Ellington, elder financial abuse is one of the most insidious crimes in our society. It preys on trust, on family bonds, on the vulnerability of aging. And when that abuse comes from a child against a parent, it's especially heinous. Nathaniel's lawyer looked nervous. However, I also recognize that you've taken responsibility. You've pleaded guilty. You've shown genuine remorse. And your mother, despite everything, has shown remarkable grace in her statement. She looked at her notes. I'm sentencing you to 5 years in prison, with a possibility of parole after 3 years if you complete a rehabilitation program. You will also be required to pay full restitution to your mother, including all stolen funds plus interest. And you will be permanently barred from serving as anyone's financial guardian or power of attorney. 5 years. Nathaniel closed his eyes. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. It was over. Nathaniel was led away in handcuffs. He looked back at me once, mouthing the words, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I just watched him go. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded me. Patricia handled them while I got into my car. I drove home in silence, feeling numb, empty, relieved, and heartbroken all at once. When I got home, I found a package on my doorstep. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photo album. Old pictures of Nathaniel as a child. Pictures I thought had been lost. And a note in Heather's handwriting. I'm sorry too. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I wanted you to have these. I sat on my porch and went through the album, looking at pictures of my son when he was innocent, when he was good. And I cried. For the boy he was. For the man he became. For the family we'd lost. Have you ever had to grieve someone who's still alive? Share your story below, because sometimes the hardest losses are the ones we can still see. 3 months passed. 3 months of strange, quiet healing. I didn't visit Nathaniel in prison. I wasn't ready for that. Maybe I never would be. But I did start getting my life back. The restitution payments started coming in. Slowly. Nathaniel had to sell almost everything to begin paying me back. His house. His car. Heather left him, taking the kids and moving back to her mother's place in Ohio. I heard this through Patricia, not because I was following his life. I wasn't, but she thought I should know. How do you feel about it? She asked during one of our final meetings. Sad, I said honestly. For everyone involved, especially the kids. They didn't ask for any of this. Would you ever want to see your grandchildren again? I thought about that. Maybe. Someday. When they're old enough to understand. But not now. It's too complicated. The money coming back helped, but it wasn't what healed me. What healed me was reclaiming my life. I joined a watercolor painting class at the community center. I was terrible at it, but I didn't care. It felt good to create something. I started traveling. Small trips at first. A weekend in the mountains. A week at the beach. Places George and I had always talked about visiting but never did. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with over the years. We'd meet for lunch, for coffee, for walks in the park. I was building a new life. One that wasn't defined by what had been taken from me, but by what I was choosing to do now. Grace and I became real friends. She'd come over for dinner once a month, and we'd talk about everything. Her school applications. My painting class. Life. You inspired me, she told me one evening. Watching you fight back. It made me realize I could do more. Help more people. You already helped more than you know, I said. One afternoon, I was in my garden when Helen came over with a newspaper. Margaret, have you seen this? I looked at the article she was showing me. It was about elder financial abuse. And there, quoted in the article, was my case. Local woman's case sparks new legislation to protect seniors, the headline read. I read through it, stunned. My case had been used as an example to push for stronger laws against financial elder abuse. Stricter penalties. Better protections. Something good had come from my pain. That's incredible, Helen said. You're making a difference. I didn't do anything special. I just fought back. That's exactly what makes it special. That evening, I got a call from a woman named Linda. She was a reporter working on a story about elder abuse and wanted to interview me. I don't know, I said hesitantly. I'm not sure I want my story out there like that. I understand, Linda said. But Mrs. Ellington, there are so many people going through what you went through. And they feel alone, ashamed, like they did something wrong. Your story could help them realize they're not alone, that they can fight back too. I thought about Grace's grandmother, about all the people who didn't have someone to warn them. Okay, I said. I'll do it. The interview ran 2 weeks later. It was respectful, honest, and powerful. Linda captured not just what happened, but how it felt. The response was overwhelming. I started getting letters. Emails forwarded through Patricia's office. Messages from people who'd gone through similar situations. People who were currently going through it. People who just wanted to say thank you for speaking up. One letter stood out. It was from a woman in her 80s whose daughter had been stealing from her for years. "I thought I was crazy," she wrote. "I thought I was imagining things. But after reading your story, I went to a lawyer. I'm fighting back now. Because of you. Thank you for giving me courage." I cried when I read that, because maybe, just maybe, my pain had a purpose. Dr. Roberts helped me process all of it. "You've transformed your trauma into advocacy," she said. "That's powerful. But don't forget to keep healing yourself, too." She was right. I was helping others, but I still had my own work to do. 6 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from Nathaniel. It was forwarded through Patricia, so he didn't violate the restraining order. I stared at it for 3 days before opening it. When I finally did, my hands shook. "Mom, I know I don't have the right to write to you, but I'm in a program here. Therapy. They're helping me understand what I did and why. I'm not making excuses. I just want you to know I'm trying to become better. I'm working on myself every day. I think about what I did to you constantly, and I'm so sorry. I don't expect you to write back. I just needed you to know. I love you. I always will. Nathaniel." I folded the letter carefully and put it in a drawer with the first one he'd sent.
I didn't write back.
But I didn't throw them away either. Because forgiveness, I was learning, isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. And I wasn't there yet. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. 1 year after that Sunday lunch, I stood in my kitchen making coffee. The same kitchen where I'd felt so alone. So scared.
So betrayed.
But now it felt different. It felt like mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Grace. "Thinking of you today. Proud of how far you've come." I smiled and texted back. "Thank you for everything." I took my coffee out to the garden. The tomatoes were thriving. The roses George planted years ago were blooming. I sat in the morning sun and thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the fight, the victory, the healing. And I realized something. I was okay. Not perfect. Not completely healed. But okay. And that was enough. If you're going through something similar, know this. You're stronger than you think. Drop a comment and let me know your story. 2 years after that Sunday lunch, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to visit Nathaniel in prison. It wasn't because I'd forgiven him. I hadn't. Not completely. But Dr. Roberts helped me understand something important. Forgiveness isn't for him, she said. It's for you. So you're not carrying this weight forever. So I made the appointment, filled out the paperwork, drove 2 hours to the state prison, and walked through those doors with my heart pounding. They led me to a visiting room. Gray walls, metal tables, guards everywhere. And then Nathaniel walked in. He looked different, older,
Thinner.
His eyes had a sadness I'd never seen before. We sat across from each other. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Thank you for coming." I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you. We sat in silence again. "How are you?" he asked quietly. "I'm okay. Better than I was." "I'm glad. I think about you every day. Wonder if you're okay. If you hate me." I looked at him. Really looked at him. "I don't hate you, Nathaniel. I hate what you did. But you're still my son." His eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve that." "No, you don't. But that's the thing about being a mother. Love doesn't work on a deserve system." He wiped his eyes. "I'm different now, Mom. The therapy here, it's helped me see things I couldn't see before. How selfish I was. How I justified everything. I was so focused on money, on keeping up appearances, that I forgot what actually mattered." "And what's that?" "Family. Real family. Not the performance we were putting on. The real thing." I nodded slowly. "You broke that, Nathaniel. You broke us." "I know. And I don't know if it can ever be fixed. But I'm trying to become someone who could fix it, even if it's too late." We talked for an hour. About his therapy, about the program he was in, about the other inmates who'd done similar things and were learning, like him, that money destroys more than it builds. When our time was up, I stood to leave. "Mom," he said, "will you come back? Sometime?" I thought about it. Maybe. I don't know yet. But I'll think about it. That's more than I deserve. I left the prison feeling lighter. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. But because I'd faced the hardest thing and survived it. I drove home and called Grace. I did it. I visited him. "How do you feel?" "Like I took back another piece of myself." Life continued. I kept painting, kept traveling, kept building my new life. The legislation that used my case as an example passed. Stronger protections for seniors, harsher penalties for financial abuse, better systems for catching it early. I was invited to speak at a senior advocacy conference.
Me.
Margaret Ellington, speaking in front of hundreds of people. I was terrified, but I did it anyway. I told my story, the whole thing, the lunch,
The text.
the fight, the victory. And when I finished, the room stood and applauded. Afterward, dozens of people came up to me, some crying,
Some angry.
all grateful that someone had spoken up. One woman, probably in her 70s, grabbed my hand. "My son is doing the same thing to me. I thought I was imagining it. But after hearing you, I know I'm not crazy. I'm going to fight back."
Good, I said.
Fight back. You deserve better. 3 years after everything started, I was in my garden when a car pulled up. A woman got out with 2 children, a boy about 10 and a girl about 8. My grandchildren. My breath caught. The woman approached slowly. "Heather, Mrs. Ellington," she said quietly. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see."
But the kids have been asking about you.
And I thought, maybe if you wanted, you could see them. Just for a few minutes. I looked at the children. They looked nervous. Curious. "Hi, Grandma," the boy said shyly. Something in my chest broke open. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. We sat on the porch. Heather stayed by the car, giving us space. The kids told me about school, about their new house, about their lives. They didn't mention their father. I didn't bring him up. After an hour, Heather called him back. "We should go." "Can we come back?" the girl asked. I looked at her hopeful eyes, at the innocence that had nothing to do with what her parents had done. "Yes," I said. "You can come back." And they did. Once a month, then twice a month. Slowly, carefully, I built a relationship with my grandchildren that wasn't tangled up in their parents' mistakes. Heather and I weren't friends. We'd never be. But we were civil, respectful, for the kids' sake. For years after that Sunday lunch, Nathaniel was released on parole. I didn't go to see him. I wasn't ready. But 3 months later, he wrote asking if we could meet. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere safe. I thought about it for weeks. Finally, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop. He looked healthier.
Clearer.
Like he'd done real work on himself. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he said. "I'm not promising anything, Nathaniel. I'm just here to listen. That's all I'm asking." He told me about his time in prison. The therapy. The work he'd done to understand himself. The immense program he was in. "I'm not the same person who did those things to you," he said. "I'll never be that person again." How do I know that? You don't. I have to prove it. Every day. For the rest of my life. We didn't hug. We didn't make grand gestures of reconciliation. But we started talking. Slowly. Once every few months. Building something new. Not what we had before. That was dead. But maybe something honest. Something real. 5 years after that Sunday lunch, I stood in my garden on a warm spring morning and realized something profound. I was happy. Not in spite of what happened. Not because I'd forgotten. But because I'd survived. I'd fought back. I'd reclaimed my life. The woman who received that text message 5 years ago was terrified.
broken, lost.
But she found her strength. She found her voice. She fought back when it would have been easier to give up. And she won. Not just in court, not just financially, but in the way that matters most. She won her life back. Grace came over that afternoon. She'd graduated with her social work degree and was working with an elder advocacy group. You know, she said as we sat in the garden, I've helped over 50 people now. People in situations like yours. And every single one of them, I tell them about you, about how you fought back. I'm just one person, I said. You're not, though. You're proof that it's possible. That even when your own family betrays you, even when you think you've lost everything, you can still fight back. You can still win. That evening, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. My phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Ellington, you don't know me, but I read your story 2 years ago. My brother was stealing from me. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. But your story gave me courage. I got a lawyer. I fought back. Today, I got everything back. I just wanted to say, thank you. You saved my life. I read the message 3 times. Then I saved it, added it to the folder of similar messages I'd received over the years. Because that's what my pain had become. Not just my story, but a light for others walking through their own darkness. I thought about George, about what he used to say. Families may bend, but they don't break. He was wrong. Families do break. Mine broke into 1,000 pieces. But what I learned was this. When something breaks, you get to decide what to do with the pieces. You can leave them scattered. Let them cut you every time you walk past them. Or you can pick them up. Examine them. Keep the ones that still hold meaning, and let go of the ones that only bring pain. And maybe, if you're brave enough, you can build something new. Something different. Something that's yours. I built a new life. One where I'm not defined by what was taken from me, but by what I chose to do after. I'm 77 now. I still paint badly. I still travel. I still have coffee with Helen and dinner with Grace. I see my grandchildren regularly. They know the truth now, about what their father did, about the choice I had to make. And they understand, not because they think I'm perfect, but because I taught them something important. That love has boundaries. That family doesn't mean accepting abuse. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who hurt you, even when those people are supposed to love you most. Nathaniel and I have a relationship now. A careful one, built on honesty instead of obligation. He'll never be the son I thought I had, but he's working to be someone better than the person he became. And that's all I can ask for. I still have the text message. Saved on my phone. Don't react. They're recording you. Sometimes I look at it and remember that moment. The terror. The realization.
The choice.
I could have reacted. Could have screamed. Could have let them see my fear. But I didn't. I smiled. I stayed calm. I played their game better than they could. And in doing so, I saved myself. That's what I want people to understand. When someone tries to erase you, when someone tries to make you seem weak or confused or incompetent, the most powerful thing you can do is stay calm. Don't let them see you break. Don't give them the reaction they want. Instead, gather your strength. Find your allies. Build your case. And then strike back with the force of someone who refuses to be erased. Justice doesn't always look like courtrooms and sentences. Sometimes it looks like a 72-year-old woman smiling through betrayal because she knows something her enemies don't. She knows she's stronger than they think, smarter than they realize, more capable than they could imagine. And that quiet knowledge, that calm certainty, that's the most powerful weapon in the world. So to anyone out there facing betrayal from someone they love, someone they trusted, someone who's supposed to protect them, I want you to know this. You are not alone. You are not weak. You are not crazy. What's happening to you is real. And it's wrong. And you deserve better. Fight back. Find your grace. Find your Patricia. Find someone who believes you. And then smile through the storm. Stay calm through the chaos. Let them think they're winning right up until the moment you prove them wrong. Because the best revenge isn't loud. It isn't violent. It isn't dramatic. The best revenge is living well, fighting back, reclaiming your life. The best revenge is surviving, thriving, refusing to let them define your story. I got a text that said, "Don't react."
They're recording you. So I didn't react.
I smiled. I stayed calm. I let them record their own downfall. And now, 5 years later, I'm still smiling. Not because everything is perfect, but because I'm free. Free from their control. Free from their lies. Free from their betrayal. Free to live the rest of my life on my own terms. And that, my friends, is what justice really looks like. It's quiet. It's powerful. It's unstoppable. It's a 77-year-old woman sitting in her garden, surrounded by flowers she planted with her own hands, in a house that belongs only to her, living a life she chose. That's victory. That's freedom. That's survival. And if I can do it, so can you. Remember, when they try to record your weakness, show them your strength instead. When they try to prove you're incompetent, prove you're powerful. When they try to erase you, fight back and reclaim every single piece of yourself. Because you deserve a life of dignity, of peace, of freedom. And no one, not even family, gets to take that away from you. Stay strong. Stay calm. Stay fighting. And never, ever let them see you break.
That's my story.
That's my lesson. That's what I learned the day I got a text that said, "Don't react."
They're recording you.
I didn't react. I survived. I won. And so can you. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or gave you courage to face your own battles, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share stories like this every week, stories of survival, strength, and quiet justice. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Together, we inspire each other. Together, we heal. Together, we prove that no matter how dark the betrayal, the human spirit can always find its way back to light. See you in the next story, and remember, you are stronger than you know. Retry.